This isn't a typical ghost story with spooky apparitions or cursed mansions. It's about the unsettling feeling you get when a place that you've known for years suddenly seems to turn against you. Land has a way of imprinting itself on you, especially if you've lived on it long enough. You start to sense its rhythms, its moods, the little changes in atmosphere. I used to live on an old southern plantation that had been converted into a horse farm. It spanned over 1,000 acres, most of which was dense forest and wide-open pastures. One afternoon, I was out walking the trails with my dogs, deep in the woods, about a 20-minute walk from the house. I decided to leave the beaten path and explore a bit. I made a sharp turn, descended into a small spring, and crawled under an ancient barbed wire fence. After wandering for a while, I stumbled upon two large limestone caves sitting directly across from each other. Both entrances were partially blocked by piles of rocks that had been carelessly stacked on top of one another, though they weren't entirely sealed off. My curiosity got the better of me, and I was tempted to venture inside. But my better judgment kicked in. I didn't have a phone, no one knew where I was, and the last thing I wanted was to get bitten by a snake or hurt myself on the jagged rocks. So I stayed outside, poking around the caves. That's when I noticed something strange. An old knife, carved from what looked like deer horn, wedged between the rocks. The moment I picked up the knife, everything around me changed. If you've spent a lot of time in a place, especially out in the country, you start to recognize the subtle shifts in the air. My dogs, who had been trotting happily beside me, immediately closed in around me and pressed tighter than usual. It felt as though something in the woods was watching me, and whatever it was, it did not want me there. I couldn't explain it, but it was like the land itself had become hostile. I set the knife back down, but the unsettling feeling lingered as I made my way back to the trail. It stayed with me, and I didn't feel right until I was back at the house. After that day, I couldn't go into those woods alone anymore. The sense of being watched, of being unwelcome, was too strong. I tried to go back and find the caves again, but no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find them. It didn't matter that I remembered exactly where I'd been. The caves were just gone. Living on that land for years, I'd developed a strange connection to it. I could tell if something was wrong without even having to look. Whether a horse was sick, if someone was trespassing, or if something was off in the woods. It was a feeling, not something I could explain, but something I knew. But after picking up that knife, that feeling shifted entirely. It wasn't just unease, it was pure hostility. I couldn't shake it, and to this day, that remains my most unexplainable experience.